I think that the disguises have evolved compared to Absolution, right? We opened up a lot more. So instead of having this one-to-one disguise rule, which was a way that made Absolution work because of the more linear approach to the checkpoints and all that stuff. I think that going towards a more open kind of disguise system, it loosens up the pressure on the player, where Absolution was a lot more about the cover-based stealth. And then once you got a disguise, you would still have to be very careful about how you moved about in the level. I think that now we've actually kind of embraced it in kind of a lot more. So disguises is a very useful tool. No matter what mission you're on, it's about figuring out, okay, which of these many disguises would actually be cool to have.
It also makes the game less mechanical in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because by making disguises more powerful, there's also, when you do the right thing and become the right person, then there's way less pressure on you than perhaps some of our older games, right? Mm-hmm. And I think our players really take a liking to that, right? Because they actually did something cool. They became the bodyguard, they became the waiter, so let him enjoy that, right?
Yes. Instead of just upping the stakes.
So you did this, we'll just
now we're going to punish you even more. Yeah.
No, I also, I mean, in this whole feeling of people matter, I love that also. Typically in the levels there will be a disguise or a set of disguises, and around that for the targets we usually create some event or something where if you have the right disguise and you do the right thing, they will actually respond to that. And it could be anything from being a psychiatrist in Italy, and God knows our sort of scientist in Italy has some issues that he needs to talk about, and overhearing that as a psychiatrist is brilliant, which is really sort of down to that disguise. Or it could be in any other form that you know what you do now dressed as this person will actually matter and change the target behavior quite dramatically.
One of the ways we change the disguises is that some of the disguises they actually allow you to perform certain actions. For instance, all the poisoning. So if you're a waiter, it's okay that you tamper with people's food even though they are next to you. But if you do it as the gardener, right, then something is clearly wrong and you shouldn't be touching that thing.
Why is the gardener touching my soup?
Don't touch the soup when you're at the gardener. So I think that's one of the ways where some disguises have kind of abilities or perks that you can kind of use to your advantage, right?
We also to that, and we also adding more fidelity to which particular disguises can carry which particular items. I mean, it's perfectly fine that a gardener is carrying a shovel, for example, but if you see a shovel in the hands of a waiter, for example, then that seems kind of odd, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
So we try to add a little more fidelity there.
Yeah, but also kind of the disguises in terms of accessing areas, right?
Yes.
Sometimes the door is guarded.
Yes.
And you can't enter as 47, but if you dress up as the waiter, then it's okay, but then you need to be frisked. But where you dress up as the guard instead, okay, then you can bypass the frisk and access the area. So if you want to bring in weapons, then you need to find one of the guards, and of course they are typically a bit harder to come by, rather than the waiter in the corner.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's hard. You couldn't put it in a formula, but there's a general sense that if you have, let's say, a civilian disguise, if we call it that, it's somehow easier to get to those, I find, in the game. And then typically what I always get to is this, okay, these two guys are going to frisk me if I go upstairs. So as a civilian, I typically find myself putting my gun in a trash bin or something like that, and then going in, okay, it's fine, and then I'm on. But now my challenge is obviously, okay, so I'm allowed, I'm a waiter, but I don't have any weapons anymore. Yep. So if I want to have my weapons with me, it's a good idea to become a guard who obviously is allowed to carry weapons. I love that. That's a whole little internal puzzle, figuring out, okay, what am I allowed to get away with? Yeah, no, absolutely. So we had disguises before in the other games, and obviously we liberated them. We have the enforcer system, and on top of that, even, I think we find these rare cases where you get this perfect item, or you find that thing that, okay, if I'm a flower delivery guy and I deliver the flowers at the right time to the right guy, I won't spoil too much here, but then you can actually have a very meaningful change in a level that's down to a mix of understanding who's my target, what's my disguise doing, and what items could I interact with. It's not a sort of everywhere, but sometimes you just get those perfect combos.
I really think this time around we're really going all in on this whole identity assuming, right? You become the doctor, and that matters for how people respond to you, right? I mean, it's still a mechanic, right? You still have to care about enforcers and the fact that they gain attention towards you, but it's also more, right? You can sort of unlock parts of the level by becoming a certain person, right? That's something we haven't quite done to that extent before, I think.